Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Happy New Year, everybody. This is a super cool episode with Griffin Harrington. He's actually a virtual reality photographer and videographer, so I thought it'd be really cool to get some insight from somebody who does something that is still on the cutting edge and kind of new. And I don't know if you've gotten to try VR before or AR, but it's really, really cool. And that's what Griffin does for a living. He creates immersive experiences for his clients. He has a contract right now with Discovery Channel, and he's been working there for a while. And I just love his story, and I think you will too. So thank you so much for listening to The Bearded Tog, and I hope you get a lot out of this episode. Thanks, guys. Here we go. Griffin, what's up, man?
How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Good. It's good to finally talk to you.
Yeah, I know, man. I feel like I was talking to you, or talking about you to my old roommate. His name is Jabin Botsford.
Yeah. I've seen him.
Okay. Yeah, and we both kind of, I guess he didn't know that you came from me, and so we were like, yeah, there's this guy Griffin, and he does VR, and like, you know, our impression was that you were as passionate about VR as we are about, like, we'll just call it like regular photography,
right.
Stills photography. And so it was really cool. I was just like, yeah, we got to talk to this guy. And for some reason, he like found me, and I was like, I'm going to follow him. And
it just worked out well.
There are some there's like 5% of like internet relationships that just always work. And I don't know, man. I just clicked with you online, and I was like, this guy's got some expertise and just a different background, and I want to hear more about it. So, dude, thanks so much for doing this.
No, totally. I'm excited about it. I listened to the first couple ones, and they're great. I can't wait to be on it.
Oh, awesome, man. That's really cool. It's good. I'm always like nervous. When I first launched, I was like sending out requests to people to talk to you, and I was like, you don't have to listen to it if you don't want to. I just want you to be on. But now it's like I feel more comfortable. I'm like, yeah, you should listen to it. You know, it's
right.
Great. That's awesome, man. Dude, so how was the holidays?
It was perfect. It was such a nice relaxer. I did a significant chunk of traveling from like August till like Thanksgiving, and so the last month and a half have been a great downtime. Like, good to see the fam, good to see friends. All of a sudden I can go get a drink with like buddies I haven't seen since when I graduated college, and it was nice. What about you?
It was awesome, man. We Sarah and I went out to where her family's from in Oklahoma, and it's just a different pace than the East Coast in general, and then definitely a different pace than Washington D.C. And so it was just good to like slow down. And I had an email responder on, which I never do, but it was great, and it was just really relaxing. And now I came back, and I'm like, all right, I guess I'm back to work.
Got to get back in it.
Yeah, 2017 is here, whether I like it or not. I had a New Year's wedding, and so it was like, all right, this is how we're celebrating. This is how we're going in. Let's work.
Let's start again.
Yeah, where are you originally from?
I am from St. Louis, Missouri. So I was born and raised there, and then my dad got a job when I was like 12, 13, and moved to Herndon, Virginia, out in the suburbs, out in the burbs, and I grew up there, and then I went to James Madison. So I've kind of been a D.C. area boy for a while. What about you?
I'm originally from Delaware, and then went to college up near Philadelphia,
oh, cool.
And then came to D.C. like 3 years ago. But for anybody listening, I might throw some of this in because it's actually funny and it's really good. But for anybody listening and you wonder why like they call Herndon, Virginia, the burbs, if you live in D.C., anywhere in Virginia, you basically consider like, yeah, it's like some type of Lord of the Rings, like, oh, I don't know if we want to go there today. Like, it's not scary or anything, but it's a different way of life, and it's so close.
I live in Pentagon City now, and so it's still technically Virginia, and it's like Arlington, and it still feels like the suburbs, even though my window, I'm on a tall building, and I can literally see, I probably have a better view of all of the major Washington, like, mall stuff than anybody in D.C., and yet I still feel like I'm an outcast living in Virginia.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think it is. That's really funny.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I always associate DC very similarly to the Hunger Games, and we just talk about the Capitol all the time.
It's real.
Yeah, and it's like you can see the Capitol, and I know folks for different reasons that like live in Southeast that have never crossed the river and never gotten to see the mall or anything like that, and it's like that's a real thing. So, but anyway, man. Dude, so we'll get started. Yeah, exactly. We're gonna have like our first after show. We're gonna put this all in the after show.
Awesome.
Dude, so I'll like kind of count off, and then we'll kind of do everything we just did, but it won't be like
live to air.
Yeah, it won't be like a first date. It'll be more of like a business thing.
Okay, cool. So we got a second date. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just count in, and then I'll say hi or something.
Yeah,
like that,
I'm rolling. I was rolling since we started. So
awesome. Can we do a
mic here? I've got a mic here too. So if we want to do a clapper or whatever to sync.
Oh, that would be awesome. So let's do that. We'll count on 3 and we'll do a clap, and then after that, give me like a few seconds of silence so I can get some room tone, and then I'll just start. All right, 1, 2, 3. Hey, Griffin, how's it going, man?
Good. How you doing, Adam?
I'm doing good, man. This is it feels weird to be back in work, but I'm happy for it. And I mean, the Bearded Talk is probably like the most exciting thing in my life right now, so I'm good.
Yeah, welcome to 2017.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
I feel weird to write that on papers and stuff.
Yeah, I feel really old. I don't really write things down anymore, so I probably would write like 27 or 2007.
Right. It's weird that my iPhone is going to tell me it's 2017 now.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, so how have things been going? I know you had some crazy travel from August to Thanksgiving. How was that? Where'd you go?
Oh, man. So I was in Asia for almost a month. It was like a little over 3 weeks, and we were doing some work out in Myanmar and then some work in China, and it was amazing. I'd never been to Asia before, and so it was it was really cool. I went in not totally sure what to expect, and then it's been funny, but it has actually like changed my day to day. Where I've never been, like, I'm from the Midwest, so I've never been super experimental of food. It's just kind of a thing. I grew up with hot dogs every day in the summer and potato chips, and I don't know. It's been a weird thing. And so with all this travel that I've been doing because of my work, I've seen so much of the world, and I've like literally like it's been strange, but I've seen so many other cultures that all of a sudden like they really put an impact on me when I'm there for a while. And so now I use chopsticks are an incredible invention. Like, they are so much better than regular utensils, where they can be knives, they can be forks. I was blown away by how easy it is to eat chunks of rice with chopsticks. When you look at it and you don't have any experience in it, and you look at like chopsticks and you look how small rice is, you're like, there's no way. It's not going to happen. And then you get into it and you understand that you just got to kind of scoop it, and it's amazing. So that's my takeaway from China and from Myanmar, is that I use chopsticks in my day-to-day life now. I got myself a nice pair. What else was? We were in England, Romania. Where else were we during that time? Some travel domestically, but yeah, it was a crazy. We were away for 3 weeks, back for a couple days, away for 3 weeks, back for a couple days. So it's really nice to be home, and it was nice to be home with the friends and the family on the holidays.
Dude, absolutely. That's amazing, though. I feel like all that travel is super cool. So tell me a little bit more about like exactly what you do. So I know that you're like, I'm just going to call you the virtual reality guy at Discovery, but I know there's a whole team, and also tell me a little bit more about just how you got into VR. So
totally.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I'll give you the little spiel. So I was an intern. I went to James Madison University, and through James Madison, we had an internship program with Discovery Communications. Discovery Communications is the overarching corporate entity that owns a lot of the major channels that you would consider to be Discovery. So it's Discovery Channel, the main one. There's TLC, Animal Planet, all those. So as a college student, I was an intern for one of the smaller channels called Velocity. It's like a all 24-hour. I did a project for Velocity. And through that project, I met a bunch of cool people. And when I graduated from JMU, I knew the right guy to call. They brought me in. And while I was here at Discovery as an intern in college, I tried to set myself up as like, I'm a digital guy. I know a lot of digital things. I know how to work GoPros. And back when GoPros were like kind of a new thing, and they're like special and they're easy and they can be posted on social real quick. And so I tried to establish myself as kind of one of those guys. And so when all of a sudden one of my current boss here at Discovery was like, there's this guy out in California who he's like 18 and he just built he's calling it the Oculus, and he's putting together this headset, and it's like virtual reality's back again. Discovery should do something for that. And so they didn't have anyone in-house who had ever shot 360 video before or really knew anything about what they were doing in 360. And so they got a little bit of money together, and we created this brand now that's called Discovery VR. And I was the first guy that they brought in to like learn how to make 360 video and then mass produce it. So it's kind of it's been a big part of my role here at Discovery to figure out the logistics, how to, and then actually be the guy on site shooting it. And then also we've kind of built up a little team here on the post side. So we do a lot of the post 360 or the post for the Discovery VR 360 videos. So that's the short version of it. And it has been a heck of a ride. I've got here about 18 months ago, and watching 360 and virtual reality just like explode. And we've made 150 videos. We have 2.5 million app downloads. I mean, it's just, this brand took off, and it was so much fun to be there from the beginning, and to like, I'm so thankful to be a part of the team that built it. And it's been really kind of an amazing experience because this is my first job. I walked in, met the right guy at the right time, and just lucked out that I had a couple of the basic skills that were necessary to create 360, and found the right guy at the right time. It's crazy, but that's kind of what happened.
That is amazing, dude. That's like, I bet there's going to be people that email you after this and they're like, "Hey, do you want to go to Vegas with me and like just like test your luck?" Because that's insane too.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that.
I know too. You've gotten to meet one of my heroes, Casey Neistat, which I just thought was like the coolest thing ever.
That was nuts.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about. Did you know anything about 360 video even from Velocity time, or?
It was funny. So during Velocity, I was just making like social video. Like I come from photojournalism actually, and kind of in your world where like when I was in high school, I was doing a lot of like music photography, and I did some work. I won the Washington Post High School Photographer of the Year back in high school. So it was just like I came from photojournalism, came from sports, came from music coverage. And that's really what I was applying to photojournalism jobs at newspapers around the country. That was like what I thought I was going to do when I was graduating college. This came out of nowhere. I walked into Discovery with just enough video knowledge that I can kind of talk my way through it. And since obviously I've had to learn an incredible amount, and I don't feel like I feel like I'm a multi-platform producer now, because I have to be, but I still come from everything with like a photojournalism gritty, like you got to get the shot because it's the only shot. I mean, I did like 40 weddings too, because I paid for school that way. So I think I had enough like background in a lot of other kinds of media production that this was just a new one, and it was exciting because there wasn't a lot of like groundwork where I couldn't go and find the best photographers or the best videographers in the world and like study their work. There weren't those guys yet, and so we had to kind of not become those guys, but we had to like we had to find our own path. And so, no, I actually walked into my interview at Discovery, and my now boss asked me, like, "Have you ever heard of virtual reality?" And I said, like, "No." And then he said, "You're perfect." And that's how it happened. And so I went away for a weekend. I told him what we needed to get, and I went away from a weekend with 6 GoPros and a busted laptop that is not a real render machine now. And I came back with a short video, and he's like, "Check, let's go, let's run." And so we made like 9 videos real quick. We built an app, and it just kind of caught off from there.
Wow.
Just crazy, right? No, it's nuts.
That seriously, like, that's just insane, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I
can't stress how lucky I got. You're right. I should go to Vegas. Or the MGM in DC. I should go test my luck on the roulette.
That's right. They just opened up. So, dude, what, kind of like, now that you've been in the VR game for almost 2 years, what's honestly like, do you approach anything differently than maybe a normal photographer? Because I know your kind of field of view is a lot larger. And then, tell me a little bit more about like, what does the editing process look like? Are we going to see like VR stuff eventually that's like released quickly, or is it because it takes a lot of power, is it going to take a while for, somebody to have like
totally.
a live streaming 360 maybe?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of angles at that. So one,
that's a pun.
I get it. One big thing that I try to stress whenever I talk to other like image creators that are all kinds, so video, photo, whatever. Imagine a world where you only can walk around with your 10 millimeter lens on your camera, and you have to shoot everything from your 10 millimeter and tell complex, in-depth stories with a 10 millimeter because that's all I got. And that's all you really can have with 360 video production. You have to shoot everything with super wide angles. And that's what, so like if you break down the math of 360 real quick, you need a really wide lens. You basically need to cover 360 degrees of sphere of image, right? And so the reason that we see the GoPros or really wide lenses are working is because you want to minimize the amount of stitch lines that are in your video. And so if I have 6 GoPros, I have 6 stitch lines that are in there. But if you use like traditional really nice cameras like Reds or Blackmagics, depending on the lens, so there are wider lenses that are coming out because of the demand of 360 creators that need them. But 2 years ago, there weren't a lot of those super wide angle lenses that you can put next to each other, and it's just really expensive. GoPros are like $400 a pop, and you need 6. So all of a sudden, you can get a 360 video rig for like $5-6 grand, which is a lot. But if you're producing an immersive media, it's like, and then also being one of the first people to put it up, like $5-6 grand was nothing in comparison to what it could have cost if with a Red rig or a Blackmagic rig would have been like the Blackmagic rig, which is the next step up, is still like 15-20 grand for the amount of cameras and the amount of lenses you need, and then the amount of, and then don't even get me started on hard drives and backup space. Like coming from photography, I thought shooting RAW was crazy when I started when I was like 17, 18, because I was like, oh my god. My files used to be 4 megabytes, and now they're 24 megabytes. And so I have to get like 3 more hard drives now because of how much I shoot. So I'm going to throw this at you real quick, and I want to see what you say. But imagine that you have to shoot 6 streams at 2.7K, 6 streams, and then a lot of the times we shoot for 15, 16 minutes at a time. So imagine taking in 6 individual streams of 2.7K footage. Each of those streams will end up being about 8 gigabytes. And then doing that for like 5-6 days of travel, and you walk back all of a sudden with 4 terabytes. Like that's before your backup. So the numbers become ridiculous very quickly with how much storage it takes to hold on to 360 footage. And so that's one thing I really miss as a creator is like being able to use 1 hard drive, 2 hard drives, and like call it a month. That I miss those days like crazy, because now it's like this. I have a storage closet behind me, and it's got like 200 gigabytes or 200 terabytes, of hard drives behind me because it's what you need. That's been one of the hardest challenges to figure out from someone who comes from photo specifically, where our media is so different and so it's not comparable with the amount that you need and the scale that is necessary. That was I'm sorry if I'm going super long on these.
No, that's totally fine. I just wanted to butt in and say, what kind of skills did you need to adapt, from your stills background, and what I feel like, in order for you to kind of like transform from stills guy to VR master, basically, we're going to call you that, is like, what kind of personality skills do you have and possess, or have you worked on to kind of keep going and to, basically like pursue this new thing?
A lot of it is pre-production. When I did my photojournalism thing and weddings and sports and music, like you can do a lot of planning, but a lot of it is figuring out like where you're going to be at the right time. And you kind of just, you read situations as a photojournalist where you're like, and you're able to, you allow yourself to move around to places that you didn't necessarily plan for. At least that was my experience in it. With 360, because of the footprint that the gear and your crew produces, you have to be a lot more tidy in your production schedules. There's some, like, the logistics are crazy, where if you could walk around with one backpack with 4 lenses, 2 cameras, whatever it is, imagine having to carry, like, if I have 2 rigs running at the same time, and then we need a backup rig just in case. So all of a sudden I have to carry 16 or 17 or 18 GoPros with me at any time. That takes up a lot of space. And then all the accessories and the rigs that you need, that takes up a lot of space. All the computers that you need to be able to run anything in post takes up a lot of space. And so like we're trying to recreate this digital like run and gun unit where we don't work with actors a lot of times. We don't work with a lot of, like, we are a very run and gun unit, but run and gun in 360 world has meant that we need a lot more pre-production work, especially in like logistics and planning. So that's been a big learning for me, is like becoming more of that guy. I used to be able to just kind of be like, oh, I did my research on, like, I had 3 meetings with a couple. I know what style they're going for. Like, I can just go shoot this thing, and I know the family enough, you know, like. But now it's like, there's so much logistical planning having to go into travel, into international travel, and then like getting on the ground and making sure there's enough space for your gear when you're there, and like there's a lot more to this than there was with my photojournalism work that I wasn't expecting. The other major thing is storytelling and trying to get the same reactions that I would be able to get with my photography, like reactions right away are the first thing that come up, where if I put a camera down, because it captures all 360, I have to allow myself enough time to get out of the way of the camera and literally go hide behind a wall or a rock or under something while that camera is capturing what I want it to. While I actually shot a 360 wedding before, and it was like so crazy to try to think about it, where it's like, I have to set this camera up in the right spot at least a minute before the thing happens. So you have to, instead of being reactive, and obviously you want, as a photographer, you want to be in the right spot before it happens, but like, instead of being in the right spot for 10 seconds before it happens, you'd be there like 2-3 minutes before it happens. And that hinders what you can get along the way, because you just have to plan more time. And there isn't all that time in weddings specifically. And there's never time in other nonfiction productions, which Discovery does a lot of. So planning your shots in ahead of time. And then also, like, you can't zoom in 360. Like, there's no tight shot. There's no close up. There's no traditional close up. There's no tight shot. There's no detail shot. The viewer always has the opportunity to look at anything in frame. And so getting creative with physical distance of objects and people is the key to me. It's kind of been the whole game on making sure that people seem large and important in frame if they're closer, and they become more important to the viewer because of the dimensions that are created in the frame. Even though it's a 360, there's no frame, but they become more important to the viewer if they're physically closer to you. And so instead of being able, and so the whole idea of like focal length, having different focal length to flatten out images and all of that stuff is just kind of gone in a sense, but it's all based on composition and choreography of actors of movement, of action, and physical distance from camera to subject. Is like, those are the two keys to making your visual story work. And then obviously the dialogue and everything is complicated, where you don't want people talking like ping pong from one side or the other. You kind of want to be close enough that the viewer doesn't have to turn their head all the time to follow a conversation. They kind of want to be in the same rough view, so you can like naturally watch a conversation. I mean, I could go endlessly on this kind of stuff, but there's like a lot of really minute details that are really, really different in 360 production that we've had to account for, and have been super fun to try to figure out, because there wasn't a guide to it. A lot of this has just come out of like doing 3-4 shoots, realizing that, damn, I really thought he was close enough. And then on the next one, to make sure that your character or your subject is 2 feet closer to camera, and to get the kind of impact that you want in that shot. And that's not necessarily, and I think with other kinds of productions, because I've done both, I think I can, if I'm shooting a regular video, I think based on my focal length, and if it's running gun style, I can account for that a little bit better manually than having like on the fly than I can where I have to pre-production everything in 360.
Yeah. So, I mean, all that to say, I feel like more than other kinds of shoots is that, this is like the most styled shoot, if you will, that you can really get down to, I feel like, is everything, like you said, has to be planned out. You don't even get to be near your camera when you shoot it. So it's just like a totally different way of thinking. Yeah. And kind of one of those things where, like, if you don't plan it out, then, you have no guarantee that the shot is going to be as good as you want it to be, That is insane. That was like we're getting super nerdy here, but I
know.
like it.
I don't want to. Tell me if to walk back if you want. Like I can talk about other things too. I don't just have to stick on the composition theories.
No, I love it. I think for, at the end of the day, especially from another kind of visual creative perspective, whether it's a wedding photographer or anything like that, like how are your viewers seeing this image? Something I learned a while ago is just like, and I hate it to say this, I always wanted to imagine my photos on like a giant canvas, and I shot for a giant canvas, and then I realized that, the images that I was creating are mostly seen on a computer.
Less than percent. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's just like, all right, well, I'm going to shoot for this. And my composition kind of changed a little bit. It got a little more tighter, a little adventurous. How the viewer's perspective saw things changed my relationship as the creator. And I think like that applies, one, to visual people, but then also two, it's kind of like, hey, how your customer views whatever you do
totally
should affect what you do too. So I think like those principles, I think, are super valuable. So I appreciate it. That's awesome. What's the craziest shoot you've been on so far? Whether that was like hectic or tiring or just looked really cool?
Oh man. Well, there's one that stuck out to me is like the one story I told throughout the holiday season with people that were like asking me that same question of like, well, what was your favorite thing? One thing I talked about a lot was we shot this thing for World Science Day for our Discovery is a very international business, and one thing we did was for our CEMEA region, which is like central. It's basically covers the everything that's not. It covers most of Asia and Eastern Europe, and so we were doing this World Science Day production for them. So on World Science Day, this video would go up, and the idea was to jump out of a plane and to land on a big Science Channel logo and to record the data of the jumper and show like how acceleration and velocity and all that stuff is recorded from a person falling. That was the idea. And let's shoot it in 360. And so it was my job to figure out like, okay, well, how do I get these cameras on these jumpers, and how do I get them to be secure enough and to have them at the right perspective and all this stuff. And so it was like and it was in England, so there was a whole nother level of like international pre-production stuff that I necessarily hadn't like worked on a high risk situation internationally. So that provided a whole bunch, like the down and dirty logistical details of this one was specifically hard because I'd never done anything of this kind in America, and then also added all of the risk and all of like a high risk situation, but internationally. And there's not a language barrier with England, but I don't always understand every word everybody's saying, and so that became an issue on the phone. I mean, it was like there was a bunch of fun little problems to it. And so once we got there, though, it all worked out great. We pre-planned all of our rigs and our rigging, and the guys who were jumping were great. And so I go up in the plane with the guys, and we're working with a branch of like basically a show branch of the British Air Force, but we're still in British Air Force planes. And so I'm in the cockpit. I mean, like in the passenger seat of this little prop plane that these guys are going to be jumping out of. And the pilot is like having fun with me. And he knows I've never been up in one of these prop planes before. He knows I'm an American who's never really done a crazy risk shoot like this. And so he's screwing with me. He's having fun. And he like, once the guys jump, he gives them the actual, like everything was perfectly safe, but he like put the plane down real quick and got my stomach going. And so that was one of the crazier moments and then we had to do like three more jumps to get the shot right. And so he had a lot of fun with that one. And so it was fun to say that a British Air Force pilot was screwing with me.
Wow. That's pretty intense. That's awesome.
That was funny.
Man. Another question, kind of different related, but
yeah.
now that you've been in the VR game for a while, and you've probably seen a few other competitors. I know Facebook bought Oculus, and so that kind of helped.
Oh, I could talk about endlessly on the VR business world. It's so interesting.
Yeah. So I want to know, for digital creatives, what would be your advice? With the VR game being kind of early right now, for digital creatives that might want to get into it. how can they shoot it? What's the cheapest way to get in, I guess? Or, are there companies that are still looking for another Griffin, just a motivated, smart guy?
Yeah, Adam, if you don't have a 360 camera yet, you got to go get one. I would recommend to every visual creator, whether it be a graphic designer, a photographer, a videographer, anyone who makes anything visual, this is a new medium and a new industry that needs to be seen and there is real money flowing into it, and it's here to stay. The idea of having your entertainment and your information surrounding you is an idea that's here to stay. What hardware or what software or through what venue you see that is, I think is still up to be decided. But the idea, it's just a simple evolution where there was you can go down the media evolution path pretty simply, where it's radio, TV, movie. This is another level of that. This is where all of a sudden your picture gets stretched and you're all around. So it's a version of media that everyone should explore, because you could fall in love with it and it could heavily influence the other work that you do. I think I've become a better photographer now that I've been doing 360, because now I can see what I don't want to have in frame way better, way better than I used to, because I've been so trained to have everything in view that now I've become so much better at making sure that my surroundings are kind of how I want them to be, very specifically, because they have to be, because you can see everything. But now going backwards and going to see the world in a cropped view, I feel like I have so much more control over my images than I ever did before, which is exciting and fun. And that's been a fun realization, that being a really good 360 creator or becoming a 360 creator has heavily influenced positively my what I call it 2D, or the right word for regular video production hasn't really been decided by the industry yet. But Facebook goes by two versions in 360 video is called equirectangular. So that's the word of the day. So if you see an equirectangular video out there, it just means that it's a 2x1, or that you can wrap it and it goes around you. And then there's the rectilinear, which sounds like a bad word, but it's not. And it's that basically means a cropped 16:9 video. And so those are the two words that define what. So I that really hasn't caught on around here. I've been trying to, but no one wants to say rectilinear. It doesn't sound right. But so in terms of how people can get into it, there's a bunch of really, really cheap and really amazing cameras in the market. Me personally, I love, and this is not a Discovery thing, but I try to keep a handy 360 camera in my pocket at all times, whether it be the LG camera, the Samsung Gear 360, the Ricoh Theta. They're out there. They're one of the highest sold items for Christmas gifts this year, so you might have gotten one already. But I would and they're small. They're literally the Samsung Gear, for example, is smaller than a tennis ball. That thing fits in your backpack no matter where you're going. The batteries run forever. You can put 4,000 photos on a 32 gigabyte card and just take it. 360 photos is one of those things where it didn't get the press attention that 360 video did. But oh my gosh, 360 photos are amazing. Where I'm excited for the day that I think is coming, where a Pulitzer Prize winning photograph will be a 360 photo, because a reporter in a crazy situation will have a Ricoh or a Samsung Gear in the right situation, and being able to show the world as it really is, not just the crop view that a photographer gives it, but the only bias that a 360 camera can give you is location and where that camera is. While in photography and photojournalism, there's a lot of versions of biases that exist in photojournalism. But for 360, you remove a couple layers of that. And so for the best photojournalism, the best form of moment capture, where you're actually just capturing a moment in time. Imagine if you could go back to when you were 3 years old and see a 360 photo then see a moment of time where you're a baby, your parents are smiling at you, your brother's laughing at you and pointing, and you can still see the house that you lived in. like all of it's there in a way that doesn't exist in regular photography. So even if you don't become a 360 creator, I think it really opens up all visual creators' brains to what can be done in 360. And I think it's a very valuable thing as more money gets poured into the industry, as more interest gets poured in by viewers who like expect 360 photos, at least a part of your Facebook production plan or your Facebook strategy. Like 360 videos, 360 photos are here to stay on social, and I can't wait to see how everybody starts to implement them into their normal social media campaigns.
Dude, that'll be awesome. I actually tried to get a Samsung Gear 360, but I think you can only like preview what you're shooting on a Android device.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah, so I'm an iPhone guy, and I was like, what's the least, like, what Android can I go buy on eBay that's broken, you know, and just like the screen works and Bluetooth works, but yeah.
The Nikon one works pretty well. The Nikon Key Mission is a 360 camera that takes, I mean, it's a Nikon camera, so it takes pretty good pictures. And it works nicely with your iPhone.
That's awesome.
Take a look at that. It's like 350.
Does it do video?
Mm-hmm. Does video as well.
That's awesome. I have a buddy of mine who works for Adorama, and he's been playing around with it. And so I might have to be like, hey, you want to send me one? And I'll write a review or something. And
there you go.
That'd be awesome.
It's a little wink deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So, dude, what's next on the horizon? I know, so that kind of what we just talked about with the iPhone and stuff like that is a pretty interesting concept for, I know a lot of creatives. You know, Apple's been a big creative industry, you know, for a while, but Apple's computers are not, you know, really pushing VR. You know, they're not really strong enough to do something like that. What do you kind of see right now? I know, what are you guys using at Discovery? And then, you know, do you have any opinions on, you know, Apple or not? Just curious.
It's been, I mean, I love Apple. I'm talking to you right now on an Apple. And all opinions are my own, obviously, but our team has, and I think a lot of the industry has realized that a lot of the Apple computers that you would normally use in your regular productions don't cut it in the same way that a similarly priced Windows would, and also gives you about double the speed, roughly, and double the power. So for 360 video production on a base level, it's like cores matter. The amount of cores that you have and the video card that you have are directly related to how much time you're sitting in front of your screen waiting for your render to happen. Because as I said before, like you have six minimum, really. You can have 3 cameras, you can have 6, you can have 14 cameras of 2.7K or 4K feeds coming in at once. Like that destroys computers sometimes. And so your computer has to have the right graphics card, has to have the right processing power. And unfortunately, because I'm an Apple guy, we've had to switch over to Windows for a lot of our major productions, or just customizable PCs that have been able to take on a lot of the production power that we need. Like my personal laptop now is this like monster that's a 4.0 quad core overclocked. Like it's got 2 graphics cards in there to chug through 4K, 8K, 10K footage. And it's real. I mean, I wouldn't be able to keep up with the speed of production that we do without it. And my MacBook Pro, which we spent X amount of money on a year and a half ago, just not even can't keep up, but like, I don't know if it really opens up the applications that I use on my Windows. And so I still use my Mac every day, but I do my work on my Windows, which sucks to say, but
hey, that's the reality of the situation right now. And
I still have an iPhone. I still have an iPad. I love you, Apple.
Yeah. And it's like, it's the reality of innovation, you know, at the end of the day. And I feel like, you know, 10 years ago, everything was in Microsoft's hands, and then Apple kind of switched it up. iPhone came out, got the reign a little bit longer, and then I could talk Apple all day, so I'll try not to bore anybody with it. That's just good to know. I was really curious about that. So, dude, any advice you would give to maybe like a college student or somebody who's looking to get into it, you know, and like, what can they do now? You know, say they have a Samsung Gear 360. Should they kind of approach it from the same kind of photo video perspective? Like, hey, start shooting, make a portfolio, show it to somebody and try and get paid? Or, you know, what would be your advice? Totally.
No, I mean, a couple of things don't exist yet that if I wasn't already so in the weeds, I would love to do myself. Number one, like if you do regular weddings and you want to make yourself extremely valuable over the next year, add 360 into your package, because even if it's just like, I'll give you 3-4 360 videos, or 3-4 360 photos, and maybe like I'll turn on the 360 camera close to the altar when you're getting married, and like there you go, you've added a piece of media that I'd put money on that they will look at just as much, if not more, in the future, because of how immersive media is going to drive the industry so incredibly hard. They might look at those 3 or 4 360 photos and that one 360 video more, because it's going to plug in nicer on their 30th anniversary than the regular flat photos that you'd give them are. So even if it's just a sub part of your package, I would totally throw it in there. Photojournalism, as I said, like there's a couple really odd, like I follow Riot, I follow Huffington Post, I follow the New York Times. They're doing some amazing 360 work, mainly video. So if you wanted to create a name in yourself in the industry real quick, go become a 360 photographer that doesn't just do landscapes and interior apartments and hotels. Go figure out how to become one of the best sports 360 photographers, or musician 360 photographers, or news 360 photographers. And you can do that with, like, the quality of that Samsung Gear 360 is a 30 megapixel image. It's not you can't pull the same kind of color quality out of it that you'd pull out of a Canon or a Sony or whatever, but it's still a 30 megapixel image that if you wanted to go into Lightroom and change it up, you can and still make it look really great. So there's so many lanes that are not just like available to you, but like wide open for takeover in the 360 and immersive media age. And like right now, if you're living in Nashville or you're living in Chicago and you're living in a major metropolitan area, you still have the opportunity to become, if not the best, one of the best 360 creators in your city, which is mind-blowing to me that all of a sudden there's a new industry right there. And it's an industry that money's flowing into exponentially every month. And there's work for it. Like it seems silly to me to be a up and coming creator and not have 360 in your portfolio. And then on the back end, so that's the creator side. On the business side, 360 is becoming more expected every day on major platforms. Number one, because the platforms are making it available, where just in a couple of days, Twitter's going to unveil 360 live streaming on Periscope. So it's integrated nicely into Twitter. So live 360 is as it already is with YouTube and Facebook, but it's going to be on 3 of the 4 major platforms all of a sudden. Snapchat, already you can swipe up and be in a 360 video, so it's there too. Instagram Live, just because it's in the Facebook world, I don't know anything, but it would seem weird that Snapchat's now doing 360 video, and I'm sure Instagram's going to be doing 360 of some kind. So we are totally still on the year 1, maybe year 1.5 of 360, that it's still way early enough that you can really become one of the major, not just names, but like you can have knowledge that then you can sell around exclusively to your clients in your own area. And that's special in a way that, like, if you pick up a camera and become a photojournalist, there's a lot of you, and you can become one of the best ones if you're good at it. But the line from starting to becoming really good at it is a lot more direct in 360.
Awesome. Dude, such great information. Thanks so much for being on, man, and hope to hear you traveling some more in 2017, and hope things blow up for you, man. That'll be awesome.
Totally, man. Thanks so much for having me on.
Awesome. Thanks, Griffin. Man, what a cool guy Griffin is. I love that guy. He's just super awesome and laid back, and kind of the same story. Like, he didn't grow up wanting to be a VR photographer. He went to school for film and communications and stuff, and I think that's the dream for a lot of people. Is a lot of times it's like photography and videography, they find us more than we find them, I think, sometimes. So just a cool story of hard work and being in the right place at the right time. And definitely encourage you to reach out to Griffin. We put his Twitter in the show notes. And yeah, thanks so much for listening, everybody. Got some new episodes coming out soon, and they're going to be awesome. They're going to be solo episodes for me, just giving kind of advice on certain topics related to photography, backing up your computer, all kinds of fun stuff. So shoot me an email if you have any questions about those subjects, thebeardedtog@gmail.com. Thanks so much.